Introduced. I'm Evan Campbell. I've been a software entrepreneur for several software companies. I've been a consultant and a coach in the Agile space for many years. Lately, more working in strategy and OKR consulting. Well, OKRs came originally from Andy Grove, the CEO of Intel. It was his creative adaptation of Drucker's MBOs, management by objective, which any of us who've been enslaved in a large corporate environment have endured MBOs at some point in our career. We all learned to game the system and sandbag the MBOs so we got all our bonuses and et cetera, et cetera. So if you've lived through that, you know why MBOs suck. So John Doerr worked at Intel, got exposed to MBOs. Later, he was a venture capital investor and one of the early investors in Google, and Google's success was foundational in their ability to align, have many different experimental business offerings, and grow very rapidly and succeed was largely attributed to OKRs. And then Measure What Matters, John Doerr's book, was one of the most popular business books in, I want to say, 2018. And it really popularized the idea of OKRs. We're really seeing an explosion now, classic crossing the chasm, Jeffrey Moore type situation, entering the tornado, where OKRs are transitioning from tech companies and digital natives to more traditional businesses, the early majority that are adopting them at large. So you just see this huge explosion in interest in OKRs. Gartner says their inquiries, and Gartner's predominantly IT centric, but their OKR inquiries have increased 900% in the last 3 years. Okay, so let's talk a little about how OKRs fit into the organization. So on the left column here, you've got your vision, your mission, and then objectives. So your vision mission is really the North Star that we're trying to steer the whole ship of the firm towards achieving or arriving at. But beyond mission and vision, which are very fuzzy and typically articulated into 3-5 year terms, everything else is expressed as OKRs. So when we start at the corporate level, we set objectives at typically a 3-year measurable set of OKRs, 1-year OKRs, and then we start to work down through the organization. Now, when I say work down, we don't cascade. One of the powers of OKRs that makes them so much better than MBOs and other previous strategy methodologies is it's not a long, laborious process of deriving each layer's objectives from the layer above. It's much more democratic, it's much more emergent, and there's a whole lot more bottom up. We'll get into that in a second in a further way. But what is an OKR specifically? You've got 2 parts to it. There's the objective, which is the actual outcome, the business impact that we're going to try to accomplish. It's qualitative, it's inspirational, it's ambitious, it should be hard to reach 100% of it, and it's absolutely valuable in and of itself. The key results that nest under the OKR are quantitative. If the measures expressed in the key results are achieved at 100%, by definition, the objective has been accomplished. Does that make sense? So OKRs are time-bound. They're associated to a quarter, a year, whatever, but they're agile. So you can change them mid-quarter if some circumstance in the business environment changes.
So I'm Libby. I lead a training delivery team at a company called Agile Sherpas. So first, that idea of what goes into this build out of the outcome. And so if we look at the left-hand side of the screen, we're going to see the rundown and the talk of there's certain inputs that go into it. Many of these things that Evan just touched on, where we want to draw from the vision, the strategic plans, the roadmap. Those are very important inputs. And then if we actually jump then over to the right side of the screen and look at what are the outcomes really of a well-built business outcome, and you're enabling a clear criteria around what does success look like. You get organizational alignment, you get empowerment. People are able to make decisions based off of well-crafted outcomes. And then in the example, you're going to see a win, where, how, what, so on and so forth. You can read through the example there, and I'll show a few more at the end. But you're really trying to put the right framing around it so that you can be time bound in the right ways. You can identify, right, that definition of success. You can start to understand what this looks like. You want to always be careful you don't get too deep into the how. That's kind of another one of those pitfalls. If you're getting real tactical and detailed in an outcome in an OKR, you usually have to pull it back. But a well-crafted one will really empower the how, will empower the people who can deliver the how.